constructive alignment. This is not meant to be massively in-depth at all. It's supposed to be an introductory session, and you'll be doing most of the work. So what we want to do today is clarify the meaning of constructive alignment. So what does it actually mean? Identify possible elements of it, because it's not actually concrete. There are many elements you could put into it. We want to identify possible ones and then practice mapping the key ones. Some elements are more important than others. And finally, there'll be some feedback on why we use this approach. Now in your groups, I'd like you to discuss two things. A, in the context of course design, what's meant by constructive? Yeah, it's constructive alignment, so what does that mean? That's A. And B, in the context of course design again, what's meant by alignment? Right, let's have some reporting back. Just a couple of things you think are key elements. Other people can comment on what you say if they like.
Well, construction, there's not much to say about that, we think, except just a simple synonym, building something, or building on something which already exists. There's more in the word alignment. Alignment is followed by the preposition with, so you're aligning with something, and we thought possibly aligning the skills we develop in EAP with the skills which are developed in the other subjects, maths, physics or whatever, and to what we do in each class, each week, are the activities that that are carried out aligned with the goals of the year, the preparation for the degree, and also aligned with the goals that the university has for its graduates.
So the lesson aims and materials should align with the assessments, and then the assessment should align with the course outcomes.
We're very much aligned with Amy in the idea that basically we're moving from macro, and they should be reflected in the micro to achieve them, which is the lesson objectives. And the alignment is to make sure that even though we have some flexibility on how we achieve those goals, we must be aligned in that the goals for the lesson objectives are met in each class and are reflected in the activities, assignments, classroom processes, and assessments of the course. And overall, these need to be made cohesive, clear, relevant, and specific.
What we discussed has pretty much already been said, but basically, as Philip said, constructive building up to desired outcomes that sort of match up to both the NU sort of desired attributes that are sort of well known, and also the requirements of schools, those are of the undergraduate schools.
Construction, so we talk about building bit by bit, so maybe it's also about a process, and then making sure that through what students do, they move towards an outcome or some goal that we have. So everything in the lesson has a purpose, has a meaning for their end goal or the program's end goal, whatever that might be.
First we looked at the two words separately, so constructive, the idea of creating something, building something, and alignment, the idea of adjusting it to fit something bigger. So in the context of accreditation, we thought it might mean looking at what we do now in CPS in order to create something and adjusting it to the parameters given to us by BALI, by the kind of accrediting body, to ensure that everything kind of builds up to the overall course aims, i.e. preparing CPS students for their undergraduate study.
As far as the alignment goes, we're pretty much the same as everyone else.
Okay.
As far as the constructive goal, like, if we look at a picture of like construction, usually involves some kind of planning or analysis. So kind of in what's the word I'm looking for? an acknowledgement of what's already there and what the shortcomings might be based on what our desired outcomes are, and then making adjustments or additions to what is already there to better achieve those goals.
For constructive, we had building gradually, progressively on previous knowledge, following a taxonomy from knowledge, understanding, moving on to analysis, evaluation, and finally creation. And then for alignment, similar to everyone else, we said logically structured and linked across learning aims, course learning outcomes, assessment to student outcome, and program learning outcomes, and then linking to graduate attributes.
Constructive in this context means the students have a learning experience here, don't they? It's what they construct, the students who construct their meaning and their understanding from their learning experience whilst they're here, or anywhere. They construct a new one when they're in an undergraduate program. So the students come here, they do a lot of things we ask them to do, and through that they construct their meaning and understanding of what we want them to learn, hopefully. That's the construct. This is a guy, well, probably not, but the most famous proponent of this is a guy called Biggs, and we'll give you a bibliography later on Moodle if you want to look at it anymore. The alignment, as I said, we'll narrow it a bit later, but before we narrow it, you mentioned various things. Can you in your groups now just do the same thing with a different scribe and just list what should actually be taken into account, or what things could be taken into account when you're aligning a course? There are some key ones, but there are other things that could be taken into account. I've got 7. They haven't all been mentioned explicitly.
What they're progressing to, what are their needs, once they finish the program, what are the students' needs, what do they have to, what skills do they have to have? I mean, basically, what are we preparing for, I would say, when they finish the class, what do they have to, what are the skills that they have to do?
Let's just see. Tell me one here, this group, just one thing that you need to take into account.
Student background and previous knowledge.
Okay, then micro. I mean, you would have to take that into account.
Institutional outcomes, the context.
Institutional, what do you mean? What do we call those?
What the university's ethos.
And what are they, how are they?
They may influence the way the teachers
Also the
behave.
physical limitations, how many classrooms, how many labs, how many desks.
Well, that would come into designing a course, sort of, but not. I'm not thinking about that now. What you said, John, what do we call those things? Are you talking about graduate attributes?
I mean, it could be. It could be all the... What was the aim of the university?
Well,
Research
to
university.
produce students with those
skills or abilities.
things.
Attributes then.
What the purpose of the course is.
Sorry?
Exactly what the purpose of the course is. Why do we have this UAP?
Why do we have it?
Yeah, that's the purpose. What we are as CPS, and then of course UAP. It's part of the.
Okay. Next group. Just one.
A long-term goal that many of our students will be doing master's degrees abroad, so it's just a long-term goal which we're preparing them not just for the foundation year and their undergraduate degree, but it's just a long-term goal which I keep in mind.
How are those things expressed, though? What have we got in, all the schools have got them, and we've got them as well. The goals of our programme, yes, is to prepare for undergraduate study. How do we express those?
Future study requirements?
No, we don't.
Course learning outcomes.
Course learning outcomes. Yes, that's how we express them, isn't it? course learning. That's what you've got to get a grasp on. We're talking about learning outcomes. So what other course learning outcomes, but what other things do we need to think about? To align, remember, the key word is align. So course learning outcomes. We said another one, the graduate.
Attributes.
Yes, the course learning outcomes. What else? Yeah, at a level above the course in CPS, what is that?
Begins with C, rhymes with
What about the programme learning outcomes? We've got a course and we've got a programme. The programme learning outcomes are smaller, not smaller, but fewer than the course learning outcomes. What other things, what other outcomes are there? What do you do when you start a class? What should you do?
Lesson.
Yes, you should have aims. So at the bottom, the aims of your lesson. All these things should align. Anything else?
We thought course level on entry would be, pre-course assessment. That's to align.
Yeah, you'd have to take that into account, yeah. And it is aligned as well in our context.
Yeah.
Descriptors, criteria, marking criteria.
Okay, assessment. That's what we said, assessment. That's the umbrella term for it, yeah. And perhaps within the lessons, aligned content. What would that mean? We're moving towards that now. Okay, so at undergraduate level, you'd suppose they're going to read academic articles, wouldn't you? Journals. So we should align our content more and more towards that, so that our lessons are based upon the type of academic material they're going to use when they're undergraduates. So we'd be looking to align the content as well. I'm going to ask you all to do something now, and we'll come back to narrowing this further at the end. I'm going to ask you to do a little mapping exercise, which might tell us something. I'm going to give you the prep project learning outcomes, which is part of our course, as you know, the first one you're going to do. The graduate attributes and the new fit programme learning outcomes. And I'm going to ask you to look at them, you can do it together, and map them to a little table, which I'll give you. And then you're going to discuss your mapping with the other people. So actually do it individually to start with. Yeah, so do it individually. Which one's the easiest to match?
Graduate.
The graduate attributes, why do you say that? Yeah, but I was looking at this, I spent a long time looking at it. They are vague, but I think it's a stretch to... One of them's easy, the personal integrity, and that side of things, but I don't think the other ones are. So how did you match the other ones? I think you're stretching it to do that.
In-depth understanding of the domain of study.
Yeah, well, they haven't got that, have they? But why haven't they got it?
Things they haven't got. They set an objective they've already got.
No, but how do our things map to them? How do they? Do we map to an in-depth?
But we're a
knowledge?
building block, right?
We're a
So
building block.
So eventually, we're on the path to then achieving that outcome.
Yes, so you could say we're on the path at a very low level to achieving it, yeah. But they don't actually directly, we haven't got any in-depth knowledge of anything, have we, on the prep project?
Well, they don't have a domain of study anymore, do they? Not for 2 years.
Yeah, but we're not meant to have, that's the whole point. They're for graduates. By the time they get there, the bits we've done will have prepared them to be able to achieve those extra levels.
Well, I have focused on these for the past few years, and what I do is ask the students which ones are particularly relevant this year, because they're not all like entrepreneurial, number 3, thoughtful decision makers who know how to involve others. So, I say, what can you do this year to kind of make a movement towards developing these skills? So, if we're having a discussion and you have a chairman in the discussion, that person will invite comment from other students students, so there were kind of these minor things. So that's
There
how
are
I,
some minor things.
that's how I work with these.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everyone does those sort of things, but and they are minor things to get there. But those, the graduate ones, are what they're supposed to be like when they finish their bachelor's programme. So we don't need to get anywhere near there. Which of the programme learning outcomes? One of them's difficult. Which one's that? Very difficult to match with things.
Quantitative process.
Sorry, the programme learning outcomes. Did everyone match number 3 easily?
Yeah, that seems to me to go very well with refining the research question.
Is that a quantitative problem?
It could be part of the quantitative process is trying to refine the question.
Well, it's not in our
Okay.
lesson.
All right.
So I don't think, I mean, that is covered in our programme. For example, as someone said, I think a minute ago, in maths to an extent, and in physics, for people who do physics. But it's not particularly appropriate for a foundation course in EAP. Not to say that they won't do that in humanities later. They will, but not in foundation.
Unless they're trying to calculate their pass mark.
Yes, they might do that. We'll come back to the pass mark with the feedback in a minute. That's very important, I think. There's one more handout, but you don't have to do anything. This is the wrap-up bit. I want you to look at this side of the document, yeah? The flow chart. You can actually you could start with assessment or the intended learning outcomes. You don't start with the teaching and learning activities when you're designing the course. All the other things we spoke about earlier can be taken into account, but these are the core things. The learning outcomes, the assessment that we use, and the teaching and learning activities should be carefully aligned. Why do we want the assessment to be very carefully aligned? It's very simple. It's been said. You can't or you shouldn't assess what you don't teach. Nothing that hasn't been taught should be assessed. Or it's totally unfair and it makes the assessment invalid. So there must be some teaching and learning activities addressing all the things that are going to be assessed at some stage. It's important as well, and this year it will happen, you'll be doing it, that the students know that that's the case from the beginning. So you'll be asked, I'm not doing that now, you'll be asked in more detail to go through the rubrics for the whole year with the students and the learning outcomes so they know how they're going to be assessed. Why is that a good thing, do you think?
It motivates them as well.
It motivates you. It's washback. Students, as you all know, will try much harder on things they think they're going to be assessed on. So alignment actually builds in motivation for most students. If they know this lesson links to this outcome and is going to be specifically assessed, they're far more likely to pay attention to it. So that's another very good aspect of alignment. So that's the key thing that I wanted to go over today. This is just, as I said, the introduction to this. And this stuff will be posted on Moodle.